please come to me, join me, Angela Mueller. An applause for Angela. Angela, we all have to deal with it in our daily life when we apply for a job, ask for a grant, whatever. You will talk about the impacts of AI on our lives, and sometimes it's not so easy to know the criteria of AI. They remain actually, or usually it remains a black box, and you work for Algorithm Watch, an organization who tries to shed light on that black box. But first of all, AI. What kind of tool maybe changed your life, Angela?
I think it's navigation, actually. I don't think I would be here without, and I'm not even using an open source, ethical, whatever model, but the one model. So yeah, I think that's the game changer.
Navigation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And we don't talk about the tools, the specific tools, but navigation is AI you need and AI you appreciate, let's say. And now, yes, you will talk about AI, how AI recruits people, and so on. And we are very excited. Go ahead, please, Angela.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me, for inviting me. I'm really glad this is not a pitch, so you just have to listen to me, no option. And I was also impressed by just the 5 stories that we just heard. And I'm always when I have all these cybersecurity experts around, because I'm not one myself, I always feel that feeling when you're in a room full of doctors and you just feel safe because, there are all these experts around. So that's kind of my feeling right now. But I will bring a new another perspective in. And it's, again, around AI, and I know we're all a bit fed up, and I think that's also a bit part of my presentation today. You announced it when algorithms recruit people, grant loans, or track benefit fraud. What is actually the impact of AI or automation on people, on women, on society? So quickly, what is Algorithm Watch? Just that you know who stands in front of you today. We're a civil society organization, a nonprofit organization, and our focus is really on the impact, the societal impact of algorithms and AI. Our mission is actually pretty simple. We just want these systems to actually strengthen human rights, democracy, justice, and sustainability instead of weakening them, and instead of, strengthening discrimination, power asymmetries, or public debate that undermines democracy. And our approach, what we do is evidence-based advocacy. So that means we do investigations, we contribute to research, we have investigative journalists and so on. And this is our evidence base. On the basis of this evidence, we do advocacy work, meaning we develop policy recommendation, take part in political debate, but also raise public awareness and through communications and campaigns. So this is Algorithm Watch. And now what are we talking about today? And I know I have a room full of experts here, but I think it's important to be aware that for many people, when they hear AI, it's actually ChatGPT, right? They think AI has suddenly fallen from the sky end of 2022 or something like that. And I think that's important just to be aware of that. For us as an organization, of course, it's important to say, we talk about automation, we talk about algorithmic systems that have influenced our life for years in many respects, because they are used to predict decisions about humans, to take decisions about humans, to profile us, of course, also to generate content, but not only. And we have a special interest really, or a focus on systems that, influence people and decisions taken about people. And what do we know about the use of these automated systems in general? When I say we, I mean also, what is the general public debate about it? Actually, I don't think right now we really have an evidence, a fact-based debate about where are these systems used, by whom, and to what purpose. So for many people, it's they hear some anecdotes, it's a bit of speculation, but it's not really a fact-based debate about where are algorithmic systems actually used and for what in our society. At the same time, what we do have is evidence about the impact that these systems can have on people, on their rights, really on their basic rights, but also on society and democracy. And I'll present some examples. Of course, there are a lot of different examples, but I think some examples that show a bit the different aspect this can have. Algorithms are used to take decisions on human, or like to influence decisions about human, for example, when it's about credit scoring, when it's about recruiting people, when it's about analyzing your workforce, but also in public administration, when it comes to social benefits or policing, justice systems, and so on. And you're all aware these systems can be very non-transparent. As you said, they can be a black box. Often also just because people don't know they're actually affected by an automated system. And they can, of course, have discriminatory impact. For example, database systems that use data from the past. And of course, they adopt like the patterns like of social inequalities and other social patterns that have existed in the past, and adopt them into their future, into the future via their predictions. One example is in policing, where, for example, faulty facial recognition algorithms can lead to wrongful arrests. Another example, some of you have definitely heard about it, social benefits. The child benefit scandals in the Netherlands, where 10,000 of families were wrongly asked to pay back child benefits that they have received over years. So it's a social benefit by the state. And they had to pay that back, which of course you can imagine what sums they were asked to pay back. As a result of the scandal, over 1,000 children were placed into foster care. So you can imagine what that meant for these families. And what was behind was, among other things, of course, a discriminatory algorithm that, predicted that, for example, people with dual citizenship have a higher risk of benefit fraud. Another area where AI is used and where it has an influence on our society is AI in public debate. One example, we talked about it, is Gen AI and the fact that, through these systems, it may be easier to create wrong content or sexualized content or stereotyped content, and then to also disseminate it, of course, lies and fake news and so on. This is not something new, and of course it's something we also have to deal with in public debate. But I think it makes it a lot easier. And that can have an influence on the health of individuals, but also on the health of our public debate. One example, this is a research we did before the Swiss elections last fall about the use of AI chatbots on search engines, because you're all aware they're more and more integrated into search engines. And at least last fall, it wasn't a good idea to really, search for information on AI chatbots when it comes to such sensitive areas like elections. Another example is, of course, that they often produce very stereotyped content. For example, here, when you enter this prompt, the gender-neutral prompt in English, of course, the doctor is always the man and the nurse is always the woman. Another example of AI in public debate is not so new, of course, and we're all aware that like social media, search engines, and so on, AI has been there for ages. Algorithmic recommender systems on social media show us content, show us ads. Of course, these are algorithms that have a huge influence on our lives, but also on public debate. And a last and third aspect is what I would like to call like AI and political economy behind, or also AI and a look at the entire AI value chain, because there are several challenges for sustainability, not only environmental sustainability, but also social and economic sustainability. For example, the development and also the deployment, the use of especially large AI systems use enormous amount of resources, of water, of energy. And like data centers are built around the world. One data center, we say on average, uses as much water as 3 hospitals. And like a small conversation that you do, like just because you're bored in the evening with ChatGPT, uses like half a liter of water, which is quite substantial. But also social sustainability. There are working conditions, of course, along the AI value chain. On the one hand, of the at the one hand of the AI value chain, of course, there are click workers, content moderators, and so on. On the other hand, we often see AI build platforms in the gig economy, where you see gig workers, where the working conditions are, of course, at both ends can be precarious. And then economic sustainability, because sustainable markets that, thrive, good innovation and so on, are usually not really characterized by oligopolies or monopolies. But that's what we see in the AI market, which is characterized by, a handful of very big companies, which is a huge amount of resources. And I always like to see the zeros also here, because we have to be aware what kind of resources actually is in this market. So in sum, I think, like we have seen, like these systems can have an impact on people, on their rights, on society, and therefore also on things that we normally see as conditions of democracy: fundamental rights, civic discourse, education, equality of opportunities, but also sustainability and power dynamics, checks and balances. So I think it's clear it's a question of justice. But wait a moment. Isn't AI about total utopia versus total dystopia? I think that's what we hear often in the debate. Isn't AI like this civilizing savior that will make us all like very efficient and will also combat climate change and will eventually save the world? Because sometimes this is what we hear, right? If we read all these PR blog posts, we get the impression, okay, these are really like all very altruist organizations and that are just here for the good, and they will save the world. On the other hand, we also hear the total dystopic narrative that AI will destroy our democracy, put us all out of work, and eventually take over control. And the other narrative is like, wait a moment, isn't it about the enormous benefits that we have to weigh against the enormous risks? So this is, then we hear about the enormous benefit of potential innovation and progress. Other people say, yeah, it's actually also kind of conservative tool, AI, because if it's always based on data from the past, it's also a very powerful conservative tool. People say it's machine, it's always neutral and objective. Others say, it's actually made by humans. It's also biased and it's always discriminatory. Some say, efficiency gains are enormous. We will all be optimized. Others say, yeah, but I see people search for problems that they can solve with AI. And I also see a lot of people fall for what I call AI snake oil, like systems that are not really scientifically valid, but just getting sold. Some say, yeah, but it's user-friendly, it will benefit the entire world. Others say, yeah, but who actually benefits in the end? And then, of course, the huge promise of it will make the world just more sustainable. And then there's a non-sustainable industry behind. So it's like, we hear all these arguments being discussed, whether it's about potential benefits and potential risks and so on. What I think is important, a bit less hype, a bit more evidence. On the one hand, like all these speculative like future scenarios about potential benefits in the future or potential risks in the future, I think they distract us from like real and present harms, but also challenges and also real and present benefits. AI is made by humans and deployed by humans with particular interests. And this doesn't happen in the future, it happens right now. Then also, I think it's important to be aware that tech won't fix like societal problems we have. It won't save the world. If we want to save the world and if we want to really, contribute to fighting climate change, then we actually have to get up and do something about it. And then we can think about, where can technology help us? And this is where we have to deploy it. But it's not like leaning back and just wait for AI to solve climate change, because this won't happen. And especially not as this is, the question is, what kind of AI do we actually have right now? And I'd say as long as we have an AI that is a non-sustainable technology in the hands of a few, it's probably not there to combat climate change. So challenges are considerable, challenges are tangible, and they are here already now and already in present. And I think what is also important to say, some of them cannot simply be outweighed by potential benefits. If we say, we have an issue here that is about fundamental rights, we cannot say, yeah, but in the future, I'm sure like in 10 years, it will mean a maximum benefit to all. Because this kind of weighing is something we do not do for good reasons in a state that is based on the rule of law. So what do we do? I would say, first, lift the hood, be aware of what's happening, and then shape and govern. So if we agree that we want like people and society to really benefit from this kind of technology, so this is about if we agree like benefit, we want benefit, we do not want harm. And if we also agree that we aim for justice, that we actually want all people to benefit, not just a handful of privileged few people in the global north. So if we agree on that, then I think we should first lift the hood and look at what's in AI, but also what's behind the AI. So what is the political economy behind the system? What is actually the power dynamics behind? And what is like also the sustainability behind? And then we have to shape tech and not the other way around. And I think you're like in a privileged position to do that. It's really like, it's not like we have this kind of AI and we just have to live with it and it's, a force of nature. I think we should have like really the objective of saying, no, we want to shape tech. We want to shape what kind of AI we have and in what way it will actually then benefit the world and not just accept what's out there and what's, being sold as the one solution. And this is why I think we need a governance of algorithms and AI. We need to talk about, what are the objectives? What can we agree on as a society that we want with this technology? What are also the conditions? What are probably maybe the red lines that we want to draw? And this really needs a public debate. And this also needs a political debate. We're here to do that, so support us in shaping it. I brought you 2 ideas how you could do that. The one is that we are currently running a campaign, because in Switzerland we also have ongoing or like starting governance discussions around AI. We have a call upon the Federal Council to prioritize the protection from discrimination in any kind of upcoming AI regulations. And a quick teaser.
Your algorithm loves cats, but this is not a cat video. This is about algorithmic discrimination.
Patricia für Algorithm Watch. Liebe Menschen in der Schweiz, wir reden heute über Ungerechtigkeiten durch KI und Algorithmen.
Mes chers romans, restez à l'écoute, ceci est aussi pour vous.
Du fragst dich jetzt sicher, wieso du diese Art von Video überhaupt in deinem Feed hast. Das liegt sicher am Algorithmus. Hallo. Je suis désolé. Zurück zum Thema. Hast du zum Beispiel gewusst, dass Algorithmen Menschen allein aufgrund von ihrem Geschlecht diskriminieren?
Okay, this is just a teaser. I put the QR code here, so I hope it made you feel like seeing the rest of the video. So go and check it out. And I would really love you to support our campaign, which you can sign on this website. Or, of course, what is also really valuable to us to do our work, to continue our work, become a supporter. Thanks so much.
Your algorithm loves...
So much, Angela.